It's always awesome to look. You can see our original logo up there at the top right, which was just god awful. The fact that I thought that that was acceptable by any standards is pretty fascinating. And then we thought we had the next big thing with the SS, which was probably a terrible idea for a variety of reasons. And then we thought, no, the color's just wrong, so let's just switch it to blue. And then we realized that there was a bigger issue with the SS logo. So then we switched to Shake Smart right here. You can see favicons were like all the rage back in 2011. So we did a favicon logo. And then eventually we landed on the Shake Smart logo that you see there today, which is the one we've had for many years. So a lot of you probably have never seen the original Shake Smart location. This was outside the Aztec Recreation Center before they renovated it. And you can kind of see how far it's come for what it is today that you've maybe seen at the Arc. Who here, I wouldn't be doing my job if I don't ask this, who here has been to Shake Smart?
All right.
About 90%. So the remaining 10%, thank you guys for coming out tonight. We'll see you guys next year at the event. Have a great rest of your evening. But yeah, so original store started there. I'm not sure if you guys are all aware, but we've now grown to almost 50 university locations across the country. We're in 22 states, and it all started right here at San Diego State University. I started Shake Smart when the Entrepreneur School was in year 2, and the Lavin program was in year 2. And you know, never in a million years imagined it would be what it is today. But you know, you guys are doing the right thing right now by sitting in these seats, learning, absorbing, connecting, and all of that. And you never know, what's going to come from that. So for me, I came and I listened to Jim Sinegal, who's the founder of Costco, who many of you may not know, but is a San Diego State alumni. And he spoke, and I was sitting in your guys' exact seats, and he was saying so many things that resonated with me about treating people the right way, treating his team the right way, always putting his employees first. And that went on to be one of the founding principles of what I lived by with Shake Smart, always putting my team first and treating people the right way. And I'll never forget that speech he gave. And so I don't actually live in San Diego anymore. I live in Austin, Texas. But if I can leave tonight and fly back to Austin and know that one of you was inspired enough to start a company and do something great like Jim was able to do for me, then I've done my job here and it was worth the plane ticket. So hopefully one of you will take something away from this, from just hearing our story with Shake Smart and the lessons we learned and whatnot. Yeah, so I always like to start with our why. You've probably heard of the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I think it's Simon Sinek, right? Yeah. So start with why is this idea of, start with your why and then you'll have your what come from that. And I think it's important that you live your life in entrepreneurship with your why first and not your what first. And that's really important because it's the foundation for how you align and your values and whatnot. The money, working for yourself, all of that will come if you live a life of why first. And for me, it's evolved over the years, but my 3 biggest whys today is the fact that we offer a healthy product for students across 50 universities throughout the country. Yes, it's shakes and yes, it's all of that, but this idea that, I was a student, I wanted something healthier, that was convenient, that was affordable, and it wasn't on my college campus. And now we're able to bring that to 50 universities across the country and solve the dilemma that I had as a student was something that really was impactful to me. Secondly was that we employ over 1,000 students system-wide. This isn't, careers for these people. Maybe it's booze money for the weekend. Maybe it's just a few extra dollars for whatever it may be. But the fact that we can be a fun, on-campus job where you don't have to drive anywhere, a lot of people don't have cars and whatnot, and be a cool culture was something that was really important to me. And the fact that we've hit 4 digits of employees is something that really inspires me and keeps my heartbeat going. And then the most important one is the careers for 50 individuals. It is so satisfying and it's the most grateful feeling to know that 50 people are putting food on the tables for their families. 50 people are feeding their kids. Shake Smart is providing, the mortgage payment for their houses because of something that we've developed over the last 13 years. And I would say those are the three things that are my why today, and they'll evolve for each of you over the years. And everything else will follow. The time you get to relax with your family, the monetary benefit, all of that will come if you have a why that you live by. So the story of Shake Smart. So the story of Shake Smart begins even before Shake Smart. I was a student here, and I had a few failed ideas before Shake Smart came to be. It's not all glorious from day one, but through each failure, I learned from them. So my first idea was I wanted to start an alcohol delivery service, and this was before Postmates or Uber Eats or things like that. And the idea was, instead of people drinking and driving, I'll bring the alcohol to you so you don't have to drink and drive. We'll just bring it to your door. And so I started writing a business plan for that, and then I realized that you probably need to be 21 years of age to be able to start an alcohol delivery service, so you're not able to buy any of the alcohol to deliver to people. And so that was my first kind of failed venture. And then the second idea was I wanted to start a hybrid taxi service, and this was before Uber or Lyft. And so this idea was, it's more affordable. You don't have to pay for the gas, so it'll make it cheaper for people, and then they can get taxi services from us. And what I learned from that failure is to buy a fleet of hybrid cars was tens of millions of dollars, and I was a 20-year-old student. No one was going to give me that money, and so that idea failed, and I learned from that one. Okay, now I need to be legally of age. I need to be able to afford my first venture. On to the next idea. And so the third idea was I wanted to start, and I strongly recommend someone still do this today, steal this idea, run with it. It's a great idea. Terrible name. It was called SoCal Premier Entertainment. And what the idea was you could buy you get group buying power. So you get one Lakers ticket, one Kings ticket, one Chargers ticket, and one Dodgers ticket as a package deal. And then you could gift it to somebody, your mother, your father, your brother, your boyfriend, whoever, and then you get to go to one sporting event at each season of the year. And I got every major league team on board except for the Lakers. I don't know if I have any Laker fans here, but you can't have SoCal Premier Entertainment without the Lake Show. And so that idea was kind of a fail. And what I learned from that one is you are going to have to rely on other people and other businesses to be successful in some capacity with what you're going to do in life, but limit that amount of relying on other people. And that whole business was fully dependent on these 4 organizations, wanting to partner with us. And so I was feeling pretty defeated at this point. I had 3 failed ventures that hadn't even made it to spending money yet. And I came to a presentation like this, and I don't remember who it was, but he said something that really resonated with me. He said, have eyes like a tourist. And so what that means is if you go on vacation, you look at things from a different lens. Why do they drive on the right side instead of the left side? Why do people walk, on the left side but stand still on the right, whereas in America, we all just kind of stand and hodgepodge on the escalator. Why is there food like this? Why is there service like this? But in our day-to-day lives, we have our hand in our phone, we walk with our head down, and we kind of live our life like that. And so if this idea that you could have eyes like a tourist in your day-to-day life, eventually you'll find a problem with something in your day-to-day life, and then you'll find a solution for that. And so this idea of eyes like a tourist really resonated with me. So literally that next day, it's like, is toilet paper the right way? Yeah, maybe that one's still good. How we do this, is that okay? Okay, yeah. And then about a week later, I had just moved to Pacific Beach. I finished my workout at the Arc, got in my car, drove home, made a shake, and I realized by the time I got home, I had missed the optimal window that you should be consuming the necessary nutrition, which is 30 minutes, Shake Smart plug. And then, and so this was the aha moment for Shake Smart. Wait, if I have this dilemma, other people have this dilemma too. Not everybody lives in the dorms anymore. People are still commuting and whatnot. And so that was where the idea for Shake Smart was born. What it was to combine the customization and convenience of the traditional blended drink industry, the Jamba Juices of the world, with the innovative benefits of the nutrition industry, so focusing specifically on protein and protein shakes. So I was really excited about it, told my girlfriend at the time, now wife, wrote a business plan over the next few days, went to the Entrepreneur Center, who the director at that time was a gentleman by the name of Bern Schroeder. If you guys have ever met Bern, he's as blunt as they come, is one way to put it. And I mean, this is the director of the Entrepreneur Center. I have this idea for a business. He's like, what is it? I want to start this protein shake concept right outside of the Aztec Rec Center. He's like, it's never going to work. He's like, you're like a fly on the wall, and sooner or later, someone's going to swat you and kill you. I was like, and this is what we're pushing at the Entrepreneur Center. Okay, got it. He's like, but I'll help you write a business plan if you want to do it. So he helped me kind of work through the process of that. And then he got me a meeting with the director of Aztec Shops, which is who runs all commercial development. And so I go into that meeting. This is my one shot at getting a Shake Smart at San Diego State. And one of the other things that someone had told me that really resonated with me is you have to find a way to stand out. Whether it's applying for a job, pitching your business, whatever it may be, you need to leave a lasting impression so that people remember you and want to help you. And so for me, what I did was I looked deep in Aztec Shops' website and I found their core values. And so I printed their core values on this big board. I walk into this meeting and I go, here's your core values, which he didn't even know what their core values were, but he was like, oh, thanks for sharing that with me. And he's like, and I said, I broke it down by sentence. I said, here's how Shake Smart will align perfectly with each of your core values. And I think in that moment, he was just like, all right, I want to help this person. This is more than just like someone pitching the next big food service concept on our campus. Like this is someone who's really done their homework. And so he opened the door for me. And once he opened that door for me, I never let it close. I had to present to associate students, exec, the student body. I had to present to the rec board, and then fast forward about 4 months later, we got the final green light to open up the first ever student business on San Diego State's property. We had this great idea, we had the approval, and we had no money whatsoever. And we were like, we needed $50,000. Everyone's, says, oh yeah, I'll help you if you ever need anything. And then when you actually come knocking on their door to pull out their wallet, let's see if they actually help you. And so I got declined by everyone I knew to give me money to start Shake Smart. I went to banks thinking like, oh, this is the best idea ever. They'll give me money. And every bank was like, yeah, no, you need 2 years of business and tax returns and all this stuff. And so that was the first major hurdle for Shake Smart. And long story short, I ended up convincing my grandma to give me, to pull out a home equity line to give us $35,000. And then my business partner, which I don't know if this is legal or not, so don't quote me on this, but we took out a student loan to fund the rest of Shake Smart. And so that's how we got the first store off the ground. And so we had the money, we had the approvals, and now we didn't have a product. We literally just had the idea of a product, but we hadn't actually tested anything. So shit, so what are we gonna do? So we got like 20 of our closest friends into a room in our apartment in Pacific Beach, and we bought every frozen fruit they had at Restaurant Depot, and all the milks and all the proteins and all that. And back then, 13 years ago, oat milk, almond milk, it wasn't a thing yet. Like dairy milk was still king. And my business partner was very lactose intolerant. And I was like, dude, like everyone's gonna drink it with regular milk. We have to test this with regular milk. And so we tried about 100 different renditions of shakes from Shake Smart, all with regular milk. And he was literally on the floor, like sick to his stomach. But we came up with like our original 10 recipes through that process, which most of them are still on the menu today. And yeah, so that was our kind of R&D phase. Now we had everything we needed, and doors officially opened on January 3rd of 2011. And that's us. I'm the bald, really short one. And that was our opening day. So year one of the business was what I would call working in the business. Year two was what I would call working on the business. So year one was we're in the operations, we're learning everything, we're writing manuals and systems, hiring people, learning how to train people and all of that. And then year two was let's open a second one and work on the business. Let's test this out and see how it works with our systems and processes. So we opened a second location at the Horton Plaza Mall in downtown San Diego, which I don't know if it still exists today. Yeah, we put them out of business. So we opened up the Horton Plaza Mall, and that was kind of our like second location. Now we've worked on the business. Then the third phase for us was let's test different markets. Let's see where Shake Smart really resonates with communities. So we tested one in a mall at the UTC La Jolla Mall. We tested one in an LA Fitness in Oceanside. We tested one in a military base at Camp Pendleton. And we started to learn from each of these different markets and consumer groups to see really where ShapeSmart can grow. And what we felt was universities was our growth strategy. And so we're like, all right, we need to test this one more time. That's not at our alma mater. It's not at where we graduated. So we convinced Cal State University Northridge to bring second ever university location for ShapeSmart. And it out of the gates was busier than the San Diego State location. And so we knew like this was our growth strategy moving forward. So it took about 2 years to trim the fat, but we cut out the excess fat of ShapeSmart and we hyper-focused on our niche, which was universities. And then I can tell you 1,000 stories of how we got from 2 to 50, but I'll kind of leave that for any questions you guys have, because I have a few more slides. But yeah, and then we went nationwide with ShapeSmart over the next 10 years, and we're in, I believe, 22 states now. So it's come a long way to get to this point, but I think one of the biggest things I learned is hyper-focus on one market and penetrate that market and dominate that market. And then once you've dominated it, then you can go on to the next thing. So where we are today, we own the university marketplace. Most universities say it's not if we're bringing a ShapeSmart, it's when we need our existing contract to expire or we need the renovation money to do it. And so now our next phase is, okay, these were the adopters of ShapeSmart. How do we make ShapeSmart not a nostalgic purchase? And so airports. So all these college students who grew to love the brand in college can now maybe have it in airports or hospitals or other things like that. And so that's the next evolution of ShapeSmart, is now to hyper-focus on the next market. So, like I said, there has been a lot of growing pains to get to that point. I could sit up here for days and tell you all the horror stories, but I figured I'd give you 5 of my favorite. So partnership conflicts. It is, and you've probably heard this before, starting a business with someone's like having a marriage. And it can go 1,000 ways and people change over years. So what you might align on today might not be what you align on tomorrow. My foundational piece of advice is make sure you formalize everything in legal documents. But for me and for my business partner, we were just, for lack of a better word, good people at our core. We treated people the right way. It was never about the money or trying to win every argument or situation. And we had a major partnership conflict in year 4 of ShapeSmart, where I wanted to continue growing the business and he wanted to be more of a lifestyle business. And there was this crossroads, and we didn't agree on a lot of things, but we agreed that we would treat people the right way. And that was the foundational piece of how we navigated separating that partnership. And it could have gone 1,000 ways, ugly, legally, financially for both of us, and one way successfully. And it went that one way successfully because we were just, treating people the right way. And it's pretty crazy to see how it's come full circle, because now he's actually back in ShapeSmart and he has all of our construction for the company. And we have a stronger relationship than we ever did when we started it. So that's kind of my advice from a partnership conflict standpoint. Pitching to universities. It's funny, we were successful at San Diego State, we were successful at Cal State Northridge, and we felt our pitch was like the easiest thing ever. We're going to take up a concrete slab. We're going to pay for everything. We're not going to ask you for any money. And we're going to be a new amenity, and we're going to be a new revenue stream. Like, this is a new reason students are reaching into their pocket to buy post-workout nutrition. We're not recycling your breakfast, lunch, or dinner revenue. And it was the most difficult thing to get universities to buy into that. And it took a lot of persistence and building a pipeline of biz dev and CRMs and things like that. And eventually it switched from us pitching universities to universities pitching us for ShapeSmart. And that was kind of the tipping point for the company. But it took 20 universities plus until we got to that point. So I think patience, trusting the process, and having that grit is something that's really important. Finding loans, that was a trialing part. I think the first 6 years of ShapeSmart for me was just find money wherever you can. Jeff was one of our people who gave us a loan for ShapeSmart in the early days of the company too. If you were willing to get a 10% return on your money, give us a check and I'll pay you back. And so that was my philosophy for many years. The best piece of advice financially that I could ever give is do not give away equity. unless you have to. Like, do everything you can to debt finance your growth, get loans, personally guarantee things, put your house up, as long as you're comfortable with it. If you believe in what you're doing, put your money where your mouth is, and don't put other people's money where your mouth is, because giving away equity is going to cost you 100 times. If your company ends up being successful, it'll cost you 100 times what it would if you did give away equity and just got debt loans and whatnot. And so I was very fortunate that someone gave me that advice, and we grew ShakeSmart for 13 years without ever bringing on an investor in the company, and that paid dividends when it came time for future events for the company. Protein price increases. So with every problem, there's a solution. It's interesting. Protein. There's not a brand like ShakeSmart that focuses on protein powder to the extent that we do, and so there's not what I would call a food service market for protein. So the protein powders that you'll see at like Jamba Juice or Smoothie King, the volume isn't there enough, so they're really just buying like consumer protein and then opening up and scooping it and putting it in. And so the price point that they're paying for protein is consumer pricing. So if there's a demand for it, people are going to raise the prices. And what we noticed with COVID was the raw material of milk and dairy was at an all-time low, yet protein powder was rising in price, which didn't make any sense. So it was this like inflationary pressure that was happening just because consumers were willing to pay it. And so we knew that this was a huge problem we were going to face. Our protein supplier at the time was going to raise our pricing enough to where our shakes, which are call it $5.95 right now, we would have to raise our prices to $8.50, which you can't make an overnight price increase like that. And so this was something that was going to be catastrophic for the company. And so the problem, we had a solution. We found the largest protein manufacturer in the country, partnered with them to start making our own ShakeSmart protein. And then what came of that is a cost reduction. So we were actually able to get it for lower than we were paying before that. And then now it opens up this whole new opportunity. Eventually we can do direct to consumer protein. We can extend the customer life cycle of all of our, customers who love ShakeSmart college but no longer are in college, so they can't get a ShakeSmart easily. Here you go, here's our recipe, go make it at home, buy our tubs of protein. And so every problem has a solution, and that was one example of that. And then COVID was obviously a challenging time for everybody. If you were in a restaurant space, it was extremely challenging. If you were in a restaurant space on college campuses, it was one of the most challenging because universities got shut down, especially in California, for almost 2 years. It was like, we're back on, okay, we're off again. All right, we're on, all right, we're off for another 6 months. And so navigating that was the most challenging period of our time with ShakeSmart. I felt like 6 months of my life, I was just reading government stipend programs of how to survive and stay afloat, ERC credits, PPP credits, EIDL loans, and I did everything possible to keep us afloat. We took the approach of it's not if we're coming back, it's when we're coming back. And so with that philosophy versus other companies were like, let's just, rapid fire and start, deliver to your house or do this or do that. We wanted to work on fixing our business as much as possible. Like if you're stuck on an island for 6 months to we thought it would be like a month, then it turned to 2 and then 6 and then a year and 2 years. But you're stuck on an island and all the other noise around you is gone. And all you have to do is focus on making your business better. What are you going to do with that time? And we took that time bettering our branding, bettering our systems, bettering our technology, increasing our menu offering. And so then when COVID came out and everything was, it was behind us, we came out guns blazing. We opened up at more universities post-COVID than ever before. And so again, a problem, an opportunity came from that. So top 5 lessons, and then I want to make sure we have time for questions. I'm doing on time.
Okay, it's 6:32. You're good.
Cool. So top 5 lessons. Number 1, there's a reason it's the top, grit. I didn't invent Facebook. I'm not very smart. I have grit. I work my ass off, and that's what's gotten me here with ShakeSmart. That's the number 1 thing that'll make anybody successful, in my opinion. If you work hard, if you're willing to put the time in, the monetary benefit, the benefits of starting your own business will come from that. When my friends were out partying on Friday nights, I was studying because I was working full-time, working at ShakeSmart from 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. minus being in class, and then I had to study because I was in my last semester of school. When all my friends went to go travel abroad, I stayed back because I was working on growing this business, and they guilted me all the time. Come out with us once, come out with us once. I'm like, no, man, like this is the time to grind. So grit's the most important thing in my opinion. Secondly, you can only control what you can control. I know it's easy to say and think about, but when you actually get put in a situation like that, it's very, very difficult to remember this. So I encourage you all when you get in a situation like this to try and think about this. This stems from a book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. But what this means is do everything you can, when something bad happens, do everything you possibly can to control it, to fix it. But once you can check those boxes and say, there's nothing more I can do, this is fully out of my hands, let it go. Like stressing about it, putting mental energy towards it, it's not worth it. When COVID happened, what am I going to do? The government shut down. Am I going to sit here and freak out about it all day and stress? Yeah, of course I did for like a day or two. But then I got back on the horse and I said, how am I going to control as much as I can? Okay, cool, they're coming out with this EIDL loan. What does this mean? I need to learn about it. I need to apply for it, and all of that, because it's just wasted energy to stress about things that you can't do anything about. Third, take risks now. Most of you are very young. You might not have families yet. You might not have mortgages yet. Like, take the risk now. Try things now. Fail fast. Try again. This is the time to do it. It's going to be a lot more difficult to jump into entrepreneurship when maybe you have a family you have to feed and your income is now going to go to zero. And so take the chances now. Also take them now because you get free connections. Like, people, for some reason, are much more willing to help students than they are once you graduate. So you can reach out to people and they're like, oh yeah, you're a student at San Diego State, oh, you're a part of the Lavin program, or Zip Launchpad, like, of course I'll help you. So take those chances now. Fourth, differentiate yourself. I kind of highlighted this with how I pitched the idea to the director of Aztec Shops, but with everything we try and do with Shake Smart, we try and differentiate ourselves. I'm talking about the craziest things ever. We did business plan competitions where we would rip our shirts off at the end of the thing and there'd be like a Shake Smart logo underneath and fill for Shake Smart, rip it off. What many years ago, how the meal plan works today didn't work like this. How it used to work is if this was a Aztec Shops run concept, it was on the meal plan. If it was a third party, so Shake Smart, Habit, Chipotle, which I think is leaving, Better, PCB, those were not on meal plan. And so I was like, how can I get on meal plan? Like, this is going to be really important to our success. Nobody back then was open before 10 a.m. All right, we're opening at 7 a.m. Nobody was open after 7 p.m. We're opening until 10 p.m. Nobody's open on weekends. We're opening on weekends. Losing money. We're just doing all these things. Nobody has vegan options. We're going to have a vegan menu. And then eventually the students are going to speak up enough and say, we have to buy these meal plans, but we can only use it at your concepts. We want to use it at these other places too. And eventually Shake Smart got on the meal plan at San Diego State, which I don't know if that was a catalyst for other universities too, but like now if you're physically on campus, you're on the meal plan. And so that was one of the bigger differentiating moments for us. And then lastly, like what you see in the mirror, I know it sounds super cliche and philosophical and cheesy, but it's very true. If with your decision-making process, you always think about that first. Like, can I look myself in the mirror and be happy with what I see, with the decisions I've made, with how I've treated people, with how I treated my business partner, with how I pitched this university and didn't lie to them? Am I going to be happy with the results of that? And I firmly believe that if you live a life like that, everything else will follow. Maybe you won't be the most wealthy person in the room, but you'll sleep well at night and you'll live a really good, happy, fulfilling life. And so that's kind of my top 5 lessons, and I can give many more, but those are the 5 I chose today. So happy to answer any questions you guys have.
In order to ask questions, you're going to have to talk really loud. So do you want to, in fact, if people want to come up, we can use the microphone to ask questions. Who wants to go first? You want? Okay. Okay. Who has the first question? And then right here next.
Thank you, Kevin, for everything you talked about. I had a question about like promotions. Like, did you do any like unique or cool promotions with students where, I don't know, something memorable or to differentiate yourself?
Promotions like,
Like to get more like customers and kind of more cash flow, that type of thing.
so our biggest, I don't need the microphone. You guys can all hear me, right? Okay, cool. Our biggest marketing thing we do at every new store is we do a grand opening free shake day. And so you haven't seen it here because we've been here for 13 years, but every new location, it's shakes that are completely free from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We have like 2,000 people come out. It's complete chaos, lines around the corner. But our belief was it costs us, call it $2.50 to make a shake. For $2.50, we're going to get you to come to the store, learn about the brand while you're waiting in line for an hour, try anything you want on the menu, taste it, fall in love with it, and then you're coming back tomorrow. So that's kind of our biggest event we do. And I've always been a firm, advocate of don't discount your product, give it away for free. Because if you discount it, now you've diluted the value proposition of it. But if you give it away for free, people don't associate free with a value proposition. They know it's just like a one-time thing. So that's just my personal belief. Yeah.
All right, first of all, thank you for coming here. It was a really great presentation. I just wanted to ask if you had any advice for students that are also trying to make a business on campus, and just any advice on how to work with universities.
Besides joining the Zip Launch.
Besides joining the Zip Launchpad, yeah, so Aztec Shops, they're gonna hate me for saying this, but Aztec Shops is the one who runs all of commercial entities for campus. So any idea you wanna bring onto campus has to run through them. Keep in mind, they get pitched ideas all the time, so you have to differentiate yourself. You have to really think through the business plan. But I would say that putting a firm business plan together, working with the Zip Launchpad and the rest of the Entrepreneur Center, kind of different buckets, you can perfect that plan, and then when you go to pitch to them, make sure you stand out in some capacity.
And we now, the Zip Launchpad now has somebody from Aztec Shops on our advisory board, which we're hoping will be an asset, because so many times the first partner is the university, and it's a gate. It's a tough.
It's a very tough game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. My name's Nick. I was wondering, have you guys run an entrepreneurship process for on the startups, like selling when they get picked up? Have you considered ever kind of being bought out by other companies or something? I mean, obviously, it's not great. That's something interesting.
Yeah, I had a feeling this question was going to come tonight, and I had to vet my answer before I was able to answer this one. But it goes public tomorrow. Not Shakesmart is not going public tomorrow, but the information goes public tomorrow. But we, after 13 years, we officially brought on a strategic partner, which was always the dream, to help us take a bite out of the apple, but then help us take the company to the next level. And so going back to the whole, don't give away equity, if you don't have to, like that has now paid 100x of what it was if I was to give away equity early on. And so,
Because he owns a lot of the company,
Yeah.
is the point.
yeah. So we officially did achieve that. And it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. For me, I still very much believe in Shakesmart and want to be a part of it. So it wasn't like a full acquisition. It was a strategic partner for me to take a little bit off because I've been invested in one thing forever, but then to help have someone who can help me continue to professionalize it for this next phase of growth.
That is a huge deal. So huge congratulations to you and the team.
You kind of proposed this question, but how did you grow from 2 to 50?
How do we go from 2 to 50? Through all those lessons, but also, I think business development is something I don't think gets discussed enough. You can have a great product, you can have a great marketing plan, but if you don't have a strategy to scale it, that's going to be really difficult. And for us, business development was something I went in, when they opened at the University of Arizona, I built a relationship with the director there. And he says to me, he goes, there's no reason, this is when we had like 8 universities, says there's no reason you shouldn't be at every major university across the country. I was like, you're right, I agree, like, I know. And he was like, well, who does your business development? I was like, what's that? And he's like, a person who develops the business, who grows it. And I was like, we don't have that. Like, he's like, so what do you do? And I was like, I don't know, like I'll just randomly decide to email campuses when I feel like I have a free like day, like I'll literally just email directors. He goes, no, you gotta have a process, you gotta have what's called a CRM, you gotta have campaigns where, you know, maybe to one person, photos of your store is gonna appeal to them, but the other person seeing a store is gonna appeal. So different ways to get your touch point. Don't cold call people and you know, have a long pause before you answer them and hang up on you right away. But business development is definitely what eventually was like the catalyst for our growth. Yep.
I have another question. What books do you recommend?
Books? My favorite books are How to Stop Working, Start Living, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Terrible name, but great book for systemizations is 4-Hour Work Week. There's no way you're going to work 4 hours in a week, but the lessons you'll learn from that book is really exceptional. And then Good to Great and Built to Last.
So Byrne, who was the previous director, was a big collector of books. And so back there in that office, we have a library, and you are welcome. Any of the students here are welcome. And almost all the books you talked about, because Byrne probably recommended a lot
Yeah, I
of
think
those
a few
books.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, are back there, and you can borrow them. Please bring them back, but you can borrow them. They're Wade, Preston. Because they're just sitting there collecting dust. They're not there for us, they're there for you to learn, and to hear about a book from someone you admire, you know, go read it yourself.
Good question. My question was, how developed does your idea have to be to for investors?
How developed is your idea? I think there's never a too soon phase, but the longer you go without getting an investor, the more value you're building for your company, which means theoretically the less equity you'll give away, or if it's debt, maybe the less interest rate you'll pay. So you obviously don't want it to be a stopping point from you growing your company, but try and wait as long as possible, because money only gets cheaper the more validation you have.
Question here.
Yeah.
Very loud. Obviously you're on all those campuses across the country, and athletics are a big part of a lot of campuses. How have you navigated maybe NIL or influencer marketing to bring the general population into that conversation? But how have you navigated partnerships with maybe student athletes or students in general who are influencers?
So I would say that was definitely one of the reasons we liked the university growth strategy is it took very minimal marketing. It's like you lock them in as a freshman or a first year student, and they're hooked on Shakespeare for 4 years. We didn't have the capacity to put a lot of money or time or energy into marketing. Kind of fast forward to where we are today, the strategic partner we're with asked us that exact question, like, are you doing anything with NIL? And I was like, what's NIL? Which is crazy. You probably like, everyone knows what NIL is, but it wasn't something I ever put focus into. And so the fact that we haven't even tapped into that yet and we've been successful really excites us for what can come from that now with NIL. But the short conversation we haven't executed yet, but we talked about is at these universities, you know, the best, call it football player, isn't going to get a big NIL stipend from anything like Nike. But if he was to advocate for Shakespeare, he's a god or a goddess. She's a goddess on this college campus. So you can get them to sponsor, promote Shakespeare for very affordably, and it can go really far on that kind of targeted community. And so it is interesting to see what we can do with that in the future. Oh. Awesome.
We have a question back here.
Yeah.
Hi, hello. Okay, so a question I have is, I'm sure, I don't know when you did Shakespeare, you probably reached out to a lot of people. And a big problem that I have is I've been doing like hundreds of emails, calls, and it's really hard to just be able to talk to someone. So I don't know if you ever had that problem, and if you did, like, how would you get around it just to be able to have that conversation?
I don't know how you're, what I would say is it's important that you always have a touch point in any reach out you do. So if I ever get an email and it feels like it was a copy and paste that was sent to 20 people, I'm not going to respond to it. But if I get an email where, and I'm just throwing, this isn't, you know, someone's got a shake in their hand and says, hey, I just went to Shake Smart, I love what you did, and blah, blah. I'll read the email at least and I'll entertain it. Again, it's about standing out. So we had someone apply for a general manager role. We didn't hire them, but she sent a video resume in, which was the first time I've ever received a video resume. Her cat was like crawling across the screen, which was kind of odd. But I really give her, you know, credit for the video part of it. And so I think that make sure that it doesn't feel like a template copy and paste. Make sure you find a touch point for every connection you do, because the more effort you show, the more effort they're going to get back.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, how fast do you have to move to be able to succeed in the business?
So it's funny backstory. Most people don't know this, but when I pitched the idea of Shake Smart, you know, I got the approval at Aztec Shops. They sent me to AS, and I had to go to the executive committee of AS first. And when I pitched the idea that night, the VP for AS emailed they had to vote on it the next day. And he emailed all the AS people and said, this is a great idea. Let's do this ourselves through AS instead of having the student do it. And fortunately, you know, again, can you look yourself in the mirror? There was enough people on AS who were like, our whole job is to foster students and empower them. We're not going to steal his idea. So they end up removing him from AS and let Shake Smart move forward. So I had to move really fast on that one. I had like a full panic. I had to go back to AS and repitch it. But then I think for us, we were very careful with our growth. We never tried to get national publicity. We had a few that kind of leaked, but we tried to stay under the radar because we didn't want anyone to steal our idea. So I think it just depends how public you make your idea, and that will dictate how fast you need to move. But you want to try and move nimbly while you can before other people recognize you, because there are copycats out there. We had 2 students actually from San Diego State who were, what do you call them? International, like exchange students. And they were from Germany. They were here for their exchange school. And then I see all these like hashtags, fuel your lifestyle, hashtag this, hashtag that, which we own the trademark for fuel your lifestyle. This is odd. And I look, and this company started in Germany called Cheat Smart. And they had literally our entire menu, like they didn't even change names, like Perfect 10 on the menu, breakfast to go, fuel your lifestyle. And then their story was copied too. It's like started by 2 college students who found it difficult to find healthy eating options while living in college. I'm like, this is insane. And so I reached out to them. I was like, you guys, like, try it, like, be a little bit creative, like, steal the idea, but like, make it your name's Cheat Smart. You stole our slogan. So I just asked them to please at least change their slogan. And then they went out of business like 3 months later because it's pretty cold in Germany a lot of the year. So yeah, that was a funny sense.
What does a day in your life look like as an entrepreneur?
I think that's the part I love the most is every day is different. I'm not someone who likes repetitive tasks. And so if I get stuck doing repetitive things, I kind of go crazy. So every day is different. Every season is different. You know, I do a lot of our finance stuff too. So like the first week of the month, I'm working on finances. The next week of the month, I'm working on analytics. The third week, I'm working on business development or whatever it may be. But seasonally too, I think is important to look at. You know, there's what we call like our store opening season, and then there's tax season, and then there's growth season. And so it's important to keep your mind moving and yourself moving because you're only going to grow as fast as you're willing to move. So you have to have a lot of self-motivation to push yourself each day.
This is going to go into our last question, and we'll put it up to if you're able to stay after.
Yeah.
Check. So my question is, how did you find your business partner to start your business with?
Well, Forbes magazine wrote an article saying when I saw that he has nipple rings and he should remove, I met him at a fraternity party and I gave like an 8-hour presentation or interview to Forbes magazine. And somehow the start of the article was when Kevin Gelfand met Martin and he had nipple rings, he said, I'd never do business with that guy again. I'm like, that's what you took from that 8-hour interview? But he was in my fraternity and he was the opposite of me. And I think that that was really important, was you do not want someone who's very similar to you because you're just going to clash all the time. So I'm very type A. I have to have things my way. He's much more go with the flow. You know, I'll trust your guidance and lead me to the promised land. And so that was, I think, a really important thing for me, was to find someone who complemented me to where he could fill the voids that I had.
Gotcha, thank you.
Let's give one more minute.